What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to have a good old look at some very cool stuff that has come around for the One Piece card game. And we might as well start off with the first alternate art leader from OP-07. Now, we are deep in the reveal cycle for OP-07 at this point, and of course, we've seen all of the leaders from OP-07. None of the leaders from OP-07 are going to be news. What is going to be news is what we've got in terms of the alternate arts, because they're all themed a little bit. They all look a little bit similar to the others, but we need to actually, know what they actually are. Well, wonderful news. We've seen Jewelry Bonny. Is it the best look at Jewelry Bonny? No, it's not. Is it a decent look at Jewelry Bonny? Yeah, you know what, mate? It'll do. We got Jewelry Bonny there with Kuma, which, of course, if you've been reading especially the current arc of the manga, is going to make perfect sense. And it's not exactly like the ones we saw in OP-04 and EB-01, but it's not a million miles away. It's that kind of vibe we've got going on here of the leader with basically their crew behind them. Now, obviously, Bonny's got like a full-on pirate crew, and it's not just Kuma. But then again, Kuma does make the most sense to be here, let's be honest. And it's a similar kind of thing. I don't know if I'm quite ready to say it's exactly the same as EB-01 and OP-04, but it does seem to be along those kind of lines. Like, here's Kazuki Oden from EB-01, and you'll notice that, Oden's entire crew is there kind of behind. The artwork on this one is especially good, and I'm always going to show you the Vivi from OP-04. I really thought that leader was going to be good. I legitimately thought that was going to be a good leader, and I ended up very disappointed. But that aside, she's got like the whole crew behind her doing the iconic pose. It's awesome. I'm not sure if we're exactly there with this. I'm not sure if it is exactly the same as we saw back in OP-04. So, yeah, I'll be honest with you. But I will say it's that kind of vibe, and certainly, compared to like the manga heads we had in OP-01, OP-02, and OP-05, it's obviously a million miles away from them. Compared to the, I don't know what they're called, but they're extremely different ones that we had in OP-03, this is clearly wildly different to them. And then, in OP-06, we kind of went back to manga heads. And they're the same kind of thing, except they're not manga heads because they're not, taken from the manga. They are a similar kind of style, but drawn by new artists. So make of that what you will. So we've only really had those three different styles of alt art leaders so far. The manga head and similar from OP-01, OP-02, OP-05, and OP-06. The different ones from OP-03. And then the Hey, my crew's all behind me from OP-04 and EB-01. This is closest to the latter. I'm not saying it's exactly the same, and these might be a little bit different, but I'm saying from what we can see from Jewelry Bonny here, that's the kind of thing we've got going on, but it is not exactly the same as the ones we've seen before. You have been warned. Now remember, Bonny as a leader, what we've got is when your opponent attacks once per turn, you can pay 1 to rest one of your opponent's leaders or characters. It's just a vanilla green leader, or a mono green leader, that lets you pay 1 to rest one of your opponent's characters or leaders every turn. Now, it is when your opponent attacks, you basically have to have a Don ready, you have to have a Don saved in order to do it. That's got to be borne in mind. But a green leader that can just flat out rest one of your opponent's characters once per turn, yeah, that sounds pretty good. And it also combos really nicely with the super rare character Jewelry Bonny, which has gone and been revealed. Comes from One Piece Cardon, as you can see from the stamps. And I don't know why people don't just take clearer pictures of these magazines. It's weird to me. It is weird to me. I know it can be done. I've seen it done. It's a little bit strange. But what we've got from the character Jewelry Bonny here is, obviously we've got a supernova and a Bonny Pirates. And what we've got here is 5 cost, 6,000 power, counter plus 1,000, and on play, up to one of your opponent's rested characters or Don cards do not become active during their next refresh phase. And this actually works kind of beautifully. Because especially when you combine it with a leader, right? Your opponent attacks, you pay 1 to rest one of their characters. Well, it has to be a character here. You can rest the leader with your leader, but then the character won't stop it refreshing. So really, let's focus on characters, all right? Your opponent attacks, you rest one of their characters, and then on your turn, you play this new jewelry Bonny, and basically say that their character doesn't become active during their next refresh phase. That's kind of fun. Or go after one of their Don. Because you know what happens if you say that one of your opponent's Don doesn't become active during their next refresh phase? Well, unless they... And there are ways around it. Take the new Kid, for instance. Kid will allow you to essentially put the unrefreshed Don back using a Don minor skill. But then because you've used a Don minor skill, you can put a new Don out active. So you can use like OP-05 Kid to get around this. It's a bit convoluted and awkward, but you can actually make it work. You shuffle back the rested Don, and then you replace it essentially with an active Don, and then fine, that will work. Okay, cool. But outside of stuff like that, using this basically just says, gutted, your opponent's not getting a 10-cost character this turn. Like, it literally stops your opponent being allowed to play a 10-cost character. Because they won't have enough Don to do so. So, the Charlotte Lin from OP-03, that one's pretty good and sees a bunch of play. Or how about the lovely new Kaido from OP-05 that draws 4 cards and is a 12k body, which is pretty good. Or the Luffy from Starter Deck 10 that's got Rush, and if your opponent activates Blocker, you get to KO one of their characters. These are 10-cost characters that see a bunch of play and are very good. Well, if one of your opponent's Don doesn't refresh, then that limits them to 9 Don during their turn, which all of a sudden means all of those 10-cost characters just cannot be played. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is absolutely hilarious. I actually really like this character. I think this is a really strong character. The whole characters don't refresh, like we've seen that before, and we've seen it be good. I mean, it is actually on the 10-cost Doflamingo that says total of 3 of your opponent's characters or leaders don't become active during your opponent's next refresh phase. That's a really good one that people do see a bunch of play, or did before OP-05 came out. So we know that these are powerful skills, the whole your opponent's characters don't refresh. Having that, but also being able to use it as a Don, guaranteeing that your opponent cannot play 10 Don characters, etc. This is actually really good, and there's a combo with a leader as well. This all makes me very happy. And Bonny was the real goal of this, but we do have a couple of other cards to help out a couple of the other leaders that we can look at nice and quickly as we're here. Like the first ever Salome card. As an example, 1 cost, 2,000 power, counter plus 1,000, and it's a hyper-specific card. On your turn, on play, up to one of your Boa Hancocks gains 2,000 power for the turn. What is important is it says Boa Hancock. Obviously, we're looking at this and thinking, oh, it's a new leader from OP-07, it's going to boost that, that's lovely. Wish, incidentally, that I did have I wish I had a way to show you the alternate art of the leader right now. That would be amazing. That would make me incredibly happy. I don't. I'm sorry about that. But, as soon as I know it, we're going to see it at some point, and I will show it to you. But there is a new Boa Hancock character in OP-07, and it'll work with that as well. Or any other Boa Hancock that we've actually had revealed and released so far. So, yes, it clearly looks like it's here for the leader, and in a lot of ways it probably is. But it doesn't say your leader, it just says Boa Hancock. So, just bear that in mind. It is not specifically for that. It works with a bunch of others. How about a new Vega Punk card? They're getting us all a little bit excited at the moment, aren't they? How about Atlas? 5 cost, 6,000 power, counter plus 1,000, and it's got a kind of a fun skill here, whereby, while you've got less life than your opponent, this character cannot be KO'd. Which is kind of awesome. But it's also got a really fun kind of couple of combos with Vega Punk here, Because firstly, Vega Punk starts on 2 life, so frankly, for a while, this is going to get that protection. But also remember, Vega Punk's got an activate main once per turn, pay 1, and you get to place up to 1 cost 5 or less Egghead card from your hand, either face up on your life or into play. Well, this is a 5 cost or less Vega Punk card. So this can be put into your life with Vega Punk, or it can be played as a 1 cost on turn 1, because you have to pay 1 to use a skill. But it's also got a trigger that just says if your leader is Vega Punk, play this card. So it can be played super easy with the leader, or it can be put into the life with the leader, or it can be played for free as a trigger, and as long as you're behind on life, which, let's face it, is going to be the case for a while, unless you aggressively use your leader to start piling up life from the early game, then you can't be KO'd anyway. There are some very, very cool cards coming out, ladies and gentlemen. There are some very cool cards coming out. And I know it doesn't specifically link to one of the leaders in the set, I do really want to show you the new Trafalgar Lore as well. You see, what we've got here is a 4 cost, 4,000 power, counter plus 2,000. Counter plus 2,000 is both good and will be more relevant in a moment. And we've got activate main. You may return this character to your hand. If your opponent has 6 or more cards in hand, they have to put a card from their hand to the bottom of their deck. Which is kind of awesome, honestly. That sounds pretty gosh darn good. Firstly, little bit of hand disruption is always quite nice, but it's also a 2k. It's a 2k counter. So I can play this down as a fairly unimpressive 4 cost, 4,000 power, it's not that great of an attacker, but still use it as an attacker if I need to. And then the second my opponent has 6 or more cards in hand, I activate the skill, get rid of a card from their hand, and then bounce this back to my hand where, oh look, now I've got a 2k in hand. I'm just saying, this seems pretty gosh darn good now, doesn't it? Yeah. This is awesome. I love it. I'm a fan. And I know the other cards I've looked at were specifically helping out leaders and this one doesn't, but come on. Had to show you, ladies and gentlemen. Just had to show you. Right, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you need to know, and now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about all of these cards. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk about One Piece and a bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.